Hello, and welcome to Be the Change Industry Dialogues, where we amplify voices and foster meaningful conversations within the music and arts industry. Our mission is to champion change, encouragement, collaboration, and sharing stories, discussing important issues, and exploring how we can do better together. Join us as we navigate the industry's challenges and celebrate its triumphs, one dialogue at a time. Today on our episode, we have Brandon Sunshine at Night. If you'd like to
Hello.
introduce yourself, tell
Yeah,
us
my
a little
name's
bit about you.
yeah, my name's Brandon. A lot of people call me Sunshine. I've been doing this project Sunshine at Night for a little while now. It's like in the vein of the ISR sort of electronic vibe. It's an electronic music product. It's all improvised, and yeah, I've been working on that for the past maybe like 5 or 6 years now, and getting around New England, trying to go a little bit further. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. We've actually had the recent pleasure to drop some brand new music from you,
Mm.
and it's been a long time coming, I feel.
Yeah. I've been sitting on those for like years, and I'm finally just trying to get into a production mindset because that's a big part of the game, which we'll probably talk about. Is that you got to be producing stuff, you got to have recorded material out, and that's something I'm very poor at. Um, yeah.
I would like to get started by asking you what your earliest inspirations were behind your music project.
Oh man. I mean, I started as a guitar player, and that kind of took me down like the rock and roll rabbit hole. And then I guess Tool brought me down like the weird sound rabbit hole. And yeah, I guess from Tool, then it went to jazz, and then I was kind of like anti-electronic music for a while as like someone who wanted to be a jazz cat. And then yeah, I don't really know what happened to me, but I guess I really got into guitar pedals and making weird sounds with those. And then I got really into ambient music because of that. Um, and through that, I learned that like a lot of electronic dance music is like just experimental music with a beat behind it. And I'm like, wait, this is sick. You can party to this stuff? Like that's awesome. So yeah, I guess I didn't really listen to too much, maybe a little bit in high school. Like I listened to Daft Punk, and I grew up playing Bomberman, which had like an acid soundtrack, which I didn't know at the time. But later I learned like, wow, I really like that acid synthesizer sound. Um, so yeah, I guess Bomberman. Shout out Bomberman Heroes. I think on N64.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, and then otherwise, I think most of my electronic music inspiration came from like going to events. I lived up in Ithaca, New York for a while, and the group Microtones, led by Mauro Correa, aka Oto Dojo, who's up in Detroit now, they started throwing like pretty proper techno parties, and it blew my mind. I was like, "Oh my God, this is the coolest thing I've ever experienced!" Like, wow, I love this. I feel like I could try to make this music. It sounds like a kind of a difficult journey to go down, and I was kind of, I don't know, feeling stagnant with my guitar playing, and so it was a new artistic rabbit hole to go down, and that's what happened. And then I moved to Boston, and then the Infra Collective, that really kind of shaped like a darker techno sound that I wasn't like aware of, and yeah, really like underground, almost like European sound as well.
I quite like the darker influences in dance music too, especially like
Yeah,
techno from, across the big pond.
I think that's what kind of made me so unattracted to EDM, was like the kind of poppy, like really bright and like smiley and like a little too happy feeling about it. And I was like, man, this is, I don't know, it feels too bright and in your face. And yeah, it took those like techno experiences to be like, oh, you can like, wow, you can party and like kind of like not like be like, meh, like yeah, and just like be chill and like have a good time. And yeah, it's cool.
All right. So,
Yeah.
what are some challenges that you have faced and have overcome from the beginning of your journey till now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess so. I'm mostly performance minded, so a lot of challenges are like finding spaces or groups who would be open to basically experimenting with me. Like mostly because of the fact that I don't record much, I'm so performance minded. Um, yeah, I have to like make a good business pitch basically, and yeah, and refine that to mostly venues and promoters. So yeah, and then hopefully showing that it's a good, a, I don't know, investment on their end. Yeah,
I think
yeah,
you're a good
I think.
investment.
Oh,
Every
thanks,
single event I've
thanks.
ever seen you perform at, it's all live, improv. It sounds something
Hmm.
different every single time. And that is your
Hmm.
selling point for me. That is what I look
Hmm.
forward to. It's like, I know it's going to be different and something new every time. You never
Cool,
really
good.
know what you're going to get with you. The vibe kind of changes throughout the set.
I guess that could be a risk though with some, I don't know, if even if I'm as I'm doing putting on my own shows, yeah, it's a risk. But yeah, yeah,
Do you
some people
ever
decide to
go
take it.
into a performance like with a certain vibe in mind, or you feel the vibe when you start on stage?
I mean, I try to I try to go with a vibe in mind
Mhm.
usually. Yeah, maybe I'll be driving there maybe like the week before. I'm like, "Oh, I'm playing with this group," like, and I'll listen to some of their residents and I'll be like, "All right, maybe I should do this that." Um, but then I get to the event and then like depending on who else is playing or I don't know, like things kind of change. And then once I get on stage, I'm just like, "Oh, I'm just being myself right now." Like, fuck you guys kind of sort of feeling. Um, Yeah, and that's kind of empowering in a sense. And then it, like kind of I get like reminded mid performance, like, oh, yo, I'm like playing with less techno minded people here. Like, chill out, dude. Like you gotta, yeah, maybe make some womps or like do some dubby stuff. I don't know. Yeah,
Do you have you felt any pressures for like industry trends that you need to like fit in with the style of music that you play?
absolutely. Um, yeah, as someone doing all this live, I feel like there's a lot of pressure, basically to more or less simulate what the DJs are doing because I'm playing with a lot of DJs
Mhm.
and man they're changing genres they're transitioning a lot like they're playing composed music basically
Mhm.
and with that comes changes and like all this stuff so yeah as I've been on this journey I've been like putting a lot of pressure on myself to just keep keep going and like yeah and listening to DJs and being like holy shit like how can I do that? Like that's awesome. Like I got to figure it out. Um, yeah, so I definitely put a lot of pressure on myself, but I think it's a good thing. I think it's made the music better. I've been listening to a lot of my past performances recently, and it seems I've been moving faster and doing cooler things.
Do you often record a lot of your performances so you can look back to improve? Or is that
Yes.
to gain new insight on where you should work on things?
Um, yeah, both I'd say. So, plus also just to have media and like evidence if it's a good set. I'm also just like putting all of my sets on. Ooh, something weird happened in there. Sorry about that.
I'm
I'm
picking you up
putting.
pretty
All
clear.
right, good, good.
Yep.
Something weird happened in my ears. Um, I've been putting all my sets on Bandcamp recently. As like, I don't know. I've been looking at the Patreon model, and I think that's kind of cool to
Mhm.
have. People who are fans be able to see all your stuff. And I'm not quite a Patreon level, I don't think yet, but a Bandcamp is a good start, I think, for people who wanna yeah
It is a good
see
start.
everything I'm doing. Hmm.
We put your new music that you dropped
I
with
know, I
our collective
saw
on
you have
Bandcamp too.
so much on Bandcamp. You got a scroller there. I love it, and that's what I'm turning into too. So it's like yeah, it's good. I have a bunch of stuff.
We'll all help each other get to that level, man. If you need help,
Yeah,
we can explore Patreon together because I've been thinking about that too.
interesting. Oh, very interesting. Hmm.
Mhm. Um,
Hmm.
do you think that in the industry right now, inclusivity versus diversity is kind of a big topic. How do you think
Hmm.
that we can promote greater inclusivity and diversity within the scene between like DJs and bands and live performance?
Yeah, oh my God, especially with live performance, like it's so hard. There's just so many dudes. Like there's so many white dudes. Yeah, oh my God. I like I guess yeah, that's where curation comes in. Which I think is kind of the future of everything. I guess side note, like I went to business school and from what 2012, 2016, a big part of our education was how the industry was all about personalization. You know, you go to Chipotle, you choose what things you want in your burrito, blah blah. It's all about personalized, blah blah. I think the future is going towards curation because there's just so much nonsense out there. I think we're gonna like have to look up to people to curate things, and I already do that. And I think yeah, that's what you guys are doing too. Like you're becoming curators of an art form or like a certain thing that you want to do. And so yeah, especially in starting to put on events, um, and hopefully I'm gonna have a event space really soon. I'm texting a woman right now actually about it. Um,
We
yeah,
definitely
it's
have a
just
shortage of good places to throw homebrewed events.
yeah,
We
and like
need that.
also not
There's
only
such a gate
homebrewed.
kept community on venue space.
Yeah, but also not just like for electronic music, like get involved in other scenes as well. Like I just learned, oh man, I forget the name of it. It's like drag-esque, but it's like heavier, it's competitive. It's like, oh man, it's underground as fuck. It was awesome. I watched a video on it, man. I'm not gonna remember the name of it, but stuff like that. Like if you have an event space, it doesn't just need to be raves and like loud music and parties and whatnot. Like no, it can be drag shows. It can be like these other things. I don't know. I've just been involved in the drag scene just because of Electric Haze and my work there,
I
and I've
actually
just been
got to
finding that inspiring recently.
I got to DJ a drag show at Electric Haze, and that was probably one of the funnest events because of the high energy and the
Dude,
interaction
that's
with
what
the
I'm
performers.
saying.
It made me feel like,
And the support with the performers too, like they're competing sometimes. At least the ones
yeah,
I'm working a lot, they're competing, but like it doesn't matter. Like there's so much love involved, and
absolutely.
there's a lot to learn from that. Yeah.
I
So
agree.
I definitely want to yeah, and it's more a representation of the underground too. I love the underground, and as much as I don't know, as much as yeah, we want diversity to be a part of the norm. I still think having a safe underground space that is like just meant for certain groups and like accepted groups. I think that's very important still. That away from the public because the public doesn't totally understand. People do come through Electric Haze sometimes and do some mean shit. Um,
I've
it's not
definitely
cool.
seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. Not like I'm not saying that it's Electric Haze is
Not
an
just
unsafe place at
specifically
all.
there, but just
Yeah,
in
yeah.
general, in the rave
It's
culture, I've seen a lot of unsafe
yeah.
things going on that are
Yeah,
not
it's
cool.
what happens in public spaces a lot. When you know anybody walking down the street can go down. So that's what I think the underground still holds a lot of value. Is you know it's curated.
Mhm.
It's safe.
Do you think
Yeah,
going back to like the old standard of like underground events being invitation only would be like kind of get popular again?
I think so. And memberships and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I think there's a group in Cambridge doing that right now with Sub Central. I think they're like a nonprofit organization now. You know, there's no alcohol allowed there. Um, and they're able to do after hours things.
Mhm.
In Cambridge, which is I hear is like one of the toughest places to do anything anywhere in the country because of legislation.
Mhm.
Um,
Not
so
having booze after hours is important for that
yes,
type of event to go on.
and keeping it private as well.
Yeah.
That which well, yeah, that's what that was. But you know, it's an after hours underground thing. It anything is going to happen, I'm sure. But yeah, you just need to create the space that is safe enough for it as well. So yeah, nothing nothing comes of it, and there's no reason for the above ground to what stomp down
Mm.
on the arts. Yeah.
I think there's way too much people in the music biz with the mindset that there's a need for competition.
Hmm.
I think we should cancel that. We don't
Hmm.
need to
Hmm.
compete with each other. There's enough for everybody to have fun.
Hmm.
Sharing space is really important too. That's where
Hmm.
the gatekeeping, being hard to get into venue spaces, is
Hmm.
a big problem.
Hmm.
Let's see.
Hmm.
Let's move into what trends do you see currently that might be shaping the future of the industry? And this could be like from your point of view or stuff that you see that you want to improve upon.
Yeah. Oh man. So I really think that synthesizers and that sort of the live performance is becoming more of a thing. I'm seeing it on bigger festival bills now. I'm seeing people a little live next to people's name more and more, which I think is cool. So it seems the industry is definitely heading towards that, especially as these synthesizers and other products are becoming more accessible. Behringer's doing some real cool things with the industry, give or take, depending how you feel about them. They are making it accessible. Also, I am worried about AI. Um, so that's where I think live performance is really also gonna shine. Honestly, I'm worried about DJs. Or mostly like club DJs. I think the underground DJs, they're still like curators, and I still think um, they can hold value. But I'm worried about like club DJs and like people like playing all these, top 40 things, and that whole industry I think is gonna get yeah, shut down, and it's gonna yeah, I think it's gonna be ruled by AI. So this is what I'm thinking. This is just my living in a studio mindset. I think people are gonna create an AI where you can walk into a bar if you have a Spotify subscription or whatever. Like the AI
Mhm.
knows everyone's playlist. Everything is curated to everybody, and it's like the perfect DJ for everybody in that bar. Like it knows everybody because everyone's connected. Blah blah blah. Um,
So you won't have like
yeah.
a stage to look at anybody playing anymore. It's just kind of
No.
like just there's no performer, there's no DJ. It's just everybody dance on the
Yeah.
dance floor. The aspect of an audience is there's no audience because it's all just people in the bar. There's nothing
Yeah.
to look
Exactly.
at but other dancers.
Exactly.
That is kind of scary. I have thought myself that the future of DJ performance is definitely changing.
Mm.
Um, I want to go back to what your thoughts were on like industry technology for people that have live aspects. A lot of gear used
Mm.
to be really clunky and heavy and hard to travel with, but now they're starting to make more micro and micro keyboards and like like loop processors and things like that. So it's becoming a
Yeah.
little bit easier for live performance people to travel with some gear.
That's a good point as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people just doing things with boxes. I've even been seeing like people live coding their sets. Like they'll get like a projector and like the performance necessarily isn't as like I don't know what to say, but it's cool nonetheless. Like I don't know, I think that I don't know. There's just yeah, people are finding different ways to showcase electronic music, and I think that's definitely yeah the trend.
What advice would you give to new artists that are trying to navigate this side of the business, live versus like DJ set or something in
Hmm.
between? Like, what advice would you give?
Yeah, so definitely start getting to the in between. I think people's most memorable experiences, and I say this as a listener, like a raver and somebody who's like an observer. Like whenever I go to these events, I'm like observing as well. I'm trying to like take it all in and like see how, yeah, learn and see how I could use it and improve it, you know? And I definitely see crowds like really appreciate like singing, for instance, like that will like boom, that will boost somebody up big time in the scene.
I
Yeah,
absolutely love when you sing and loop your voice on stage. That is such a
yeah, it's
cool
cool.
effect.
People respond to it.
I
Yeah.
really love it. That's my
Yeah.
favorite part about your sets is using your voice and using that
Mm.
as its own instrument. It blows me away
Mhm.
every time.
Because it's also human and everyone can kind of relate to it, you know?
More
Besides
of
just like the
that.
bleeps and
More
bloops that I'm making. Yeah, yeah. So, and then, yeah, other people doing live instrumentals or like what Closed Loop is doing. He's got like a guitarist with him sometimes. And he's, yeah,
Mhm.
the finger drumming is
Finger
cool. And
drumming,
like,
live
yeah,
MPC.
just showing that like, oh yeah, music is like made. Like people, it makes people smile. Like, even just like doing yeah, yeah, just like shaking things and whatnot, and like having little instruments or a triangle or something, like
I want to see
anything.
you and Closed Loop jam out sometime.
I know, dude. I know that needs to happen. I'm
I've been
honestly surprised
praying
it
for that
hasn't.
for years. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah,
Go for 2025.
yeah, yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
All right. Let's move on to the next question here. Do, 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 do. How can artists and industry professionals foster a deeper, more meaningful connection with their audiences?
Hmm. That's a good question. Um. Oh man, that's such a good question. That's what I'm having trouble with, and like I guess seeing. Can you say that again? Can you say? Can you say the question again?
How can artists and industry professionals foster a deeper and more meaningful connection with their audience? Like, what role do you think
Yeah.
audiences can play in driving like positive change?
Oh, interesting. So, I guess I'm just having trouble right now. I guess in my scene here in Worcester, in like having the audience caring and like coming out to these things.
Gotcha.
So I've been like trying to figure out how to like foster something for them.
Mhm.
And I guess like mixed media is the best approach. And like, yeah, I don't think at least from the things I've put on around here, I don't think that just like DJ events or like even if I'm before I don't think it really matters. Like people don't just want to go to an electronic dance music event. Like I think it needs to be something else. Like a lot of groups have live artists coming in. Like there's vendors. There's it turns into a bazaar. Um, yeah, and a lot like visual art, I think, is a big part of it. Um, then maybe even in the future, like interactive art and
I personally
which,
think that's where the future is going for
yeah,
the music and arts biz is to have 50-50, with something in the middle for people to interact with. And it
hmm
doesn't need to be just a party atmosphere.
right. I guess I just don't know how to do that. Is my problem. Like, which now, yeah, I guess I really got to think about that a little bit more now that we're talking about it. Yeah, interaction is that's what I'm like a part of Fractal Tribe, and that's what's really cool about some of their events is they have a lot of cool interactive things going on. They did the Fractal Quest during their last festival, which is like just the whole grounds are like a big oh, what's it called? Like a use a GPS to find like geotagging, a big
Oh
geotag
yeah.
hunt sort of thing. So
Yeah.
stuff like that. Plus, it's all like the geotags themselves are like in art exhibits. So like, yeah,
Trying to
it's
create the
really
hype
cool.
to get people motivated to interact, to find clues, to find where an event is going down is hard. I've seen people try it,
Yeah.
but getting the motivation and the crews together, I think would
Mhm.
be hard. But
Mhm.
moving into what I asked earlier, going back to a more like club based, like you pay to subscribe to something and you have a
Mhm.
group of dedicated people that want to interact, that slowly over time could probably like gain traction to get more interest to things like that.
Right.
um, Properly
Right.
promoting it online and treating it as a business for motivation.
Hmm. Mhm.
I think with the clickbait that's on every social media platform out there, it's really hard for us to make content that people want to interact with, because it's
Mm,
just like the short attention span thing. Something you have
right,
to dedicate your time to is going to be harder for people to focus on.
right. Nonetheless, I still feel like it could be used a little bit
Yeah, I think so.
to your advantage with the short
I
attention
think
span if
so.
it's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in your yeah, I don't know what to do though. I like yeah, I've been pondering some things to like I don't know if it's a culture thing. I don't know if it's if if we're just broke right now and like no one can afford going out.
Mm.
Um yeah, I don't know what it is.
See, I've seen a lot of crews and a lot of names like, DJs and performers like rise and fall in the last few years. They build up and
Yeah.
then they just crumble. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of it has to do more so than the money is the quality of the individuals that are involved with doing these
Mhm.
things, because
Mhm.
they don't treat people fair. They don't have really strong like ethical standards, or
Mm.
sustainable practices.
Right.
Um, the transparency is just not there, or accountability.
Right.
Brings me into
Right.
my next question. How can the music scene adopt more sustainable practice? And what role do you think venues can play in promoting the spread of that kind of like conscious shift?
Right. So sustainable, like the scene can kind of sustain itself. Sustainable.
Yeah,
You're saying?
self-sustaining, meaning
Right.
like diversity for emerging folks versus having to
Hmm.
compete with people that already have some traction. Um, and whatever
Yeah.
sustainability means to you, like what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah. That's. I'm definitely struggling with it personally, and finding a good way to do it. Um, I guess definitely working together seems to help.
Mhm,
And like, yeah, not competing, like you're saying. From what I'm hearing about, for instance, the Boston scene, is that there's a lot of competition, and it's not necessarily that people are competing, but everybody just wants to kind of put on their own thing. They want to be, everyone wants to be a curator, um,
yeah.
which is a good thing, to a sense. But if everybody wants to do it, then it's stretched thin. The scene is only so big.
Right.
Um,
That's
sure, it
where
could get bigger.
collaboration comes in. Because if you want to
Right.
curate, but you're not a
Right.
collaborator,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the
Right. Right.
problem is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then, yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. And then I guess it comes hand in hand. Curate who you collaborate with as well, and hopefully that then becomes its own, yeah, self-sustaining little ecosystem there. Um, between, yeah, I think artists can definitely do that. At least with Fractal Tribe, they seem to be doing that pretty decently. Where we've kind of just got like a little artist community here. We kind of pay for our own space,
Mhm,
and yeah, kind of sustain each other in that sense, which is cool. But that's small. This is like a microcosm.
mhm.
Um, but still, there's I guess a lot to learn from that. Um,
Finding your group of friends and collaborators is really important to get things done. So if you have a
yeah,
team of
yeah.
people working together, chances are there's more chances for creative bubble to pop and expand elsewhere.
Hmm.
Let's say
Mm-hmm.
you bring the live aspect with the music, someone else brings something with like an immersive art space where you have things to
Mm-hmm.
interact with. You never know
Right.
what kind of amazing things can happen when, different types of artistry come together in one specific space.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And just a few shout outs of groups who are doing that. The Reliquarium is very good at collaboration and like art exhibits and like just interactive thing. Last party I went to was like a corn party and they like had a big tub of corn you could lay in and like just popcorn everywhere and like it was cool.
I
They do
will
these theme
never
parties.
forget. I went to Reliquarium's very last Ziggurat party in Boston before they moved to Rhode Island.
Hmm.
And that was many years ago. That was my first taste of Boston underground life. And I was like, this is amazing. I want more of this. And I
Mm-hmm.
haven't been able to find that anywhere.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
you're
like an
right.
invitation only kind of thing, and it was like one of the wildest nights of my life. It was
Yeah,
so cool.
it
It
is
was
really cool.
dark,
And
it
they,
was
yeah,
spooky, it was artistry, it was, people in costumes and bodies painted and like three different levels of just progressive, really out there in your face kind of art that like, to an open public, they might not have been able to appreciate the artistic debauchery, but
right,
you
right.
know, that night will live in infamy in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And yeah, you had a cool experience and like yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably influenced you
Was
even
very
going
eye-opening.
forward. Yeah.
I really kind of was hoping that like someday with ISR we could find a space to do things like that, and incorporate, great collaborators in a safe environment for people. But it's way harder
Mm.
to do than to think about and to imagine.
Yes, agreed. And you need the right people and people who have the time and like the effort and the resources and you all got to make an investment, like it does it's not cheap either to do things like this.
Isn't
Um yeah, and you got to find the crazy enough people to want to do that.
Mhm.
Um, which then makes it even harder to like have a diverse team because like then you're just like dwindling down like the insane people who want to do art. Like who the fuck wants to do that? I mean, I do, but I'm like living out of my music studio. Like it's not cool. It's kind of cool, but it's not cool. But
I get that.
yeah.
I have an office and I do all my music stuff in here unless it's like doing a stream down in the basement, and I also do my
Hmm.
podcast in here. I do my D&D games in here. So it's like a multi-purpose
Hmm.
space, so there's different things everywhere.
Right. Right.
I feel that.
Yeah. You got to really yeah. It definitely takes a certain type of person who's also willing to like not sleep much and like yeah, it's like it's tough. I don't know. Well, as I've been trying to do it, I've been real like I don't know, maybe I'm too hard on other people or which could definitely be
What do you
uh
mean by you're too
one
hard on other people?
in the sense that as I've been trying to put on events at least here in Central Mass, I feel like I'm working harder than everybody else and I'm putting more into this than everybody else. And that like I'm taking way too much of a leadership role. Um, and yeah, and like other people do want to help, but it's uh, maybe not the help I think is like effective enough or like
May I
they're
ask
not.
if possibly, the people who want to collaborate with you, maybe it's like their core values or practices kind of
Hmm,
like, cause friction with you. That
that's
you
a
have a
that's a
vision
good
of how
way to
you
put it.
want it, but they have their own, and that's kind of where the head's butt.
Yeah, and a commitment thing as well, definitely.
Right.
Is what I've
Commitment of
found.
time
Yeah,
and resources is a
yeah,
heavy.
yeah, yeah.
What type of criteria do you use to decide like who you want to work with when you're doing collaborative events or music?
Yeah, with the collaborative events, mostly I'm looking for people who have just some sort of drive, and who are like mostly people who like come up to me like, hey, like I see what you're doing, like I'd like to be a part of it or something. And yeah, that's usually how I guess it's been happening. Unfortunately, yeah, usually when I see people that I want to work with, they're a little too busy. So I'm like in this weird little like middle point where like there's people I'm looking up to and I'm like, hey, can we like do this cool thing? And they're like, you're gonna have to pay me a lot of money for that or something. Like, oh man, all right, like I get it. You're a professional dude. Like I totally get it. And yeah, but then people asking me to do cool things, and then I will do those cool things. Um, yeah, yeah. So did that answer
Um,
anything
oh yeah,
correctly?
of course. Have there ever been any like ethical dilemmas that you faced when doing business with someone as a collaborator, and like how did you resolve those things?
Yeah, yeah. And this also goes towards the diversity a little bit. Yeah, basically the group I started, Warp, it was started because like I wanted to throw parties, but I didn't have um really anybody else to help me. And so I found a team to finally help me. We started throwing some parties.
I remember
Um
Warp because we worked with you during one or two of those, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah, we worked
Briefly,
together a
yeah.
few times.
Yeah.
And it's cool, but like we weren't a really diverse team. We were just like a team of just like a bunch of white dudes. And eventually we got like an Indian dude on our team, but still just a bunch of like straight dudes, blah blah blah. But through, I guess through, we have a bunch of friends and whatnot. Basically, it came to, we heard through the grapevine. Unfortunately, I wish I heard it through like the source itself, that somebody said something inappropriate to a female, like a friend of a friend who was at the event. And yeah, I guess we just talked to him, and we're like, dude, like don't do that. Um, which helped. He's been at events since, and like there's been no bad blood, but I guess he does kind of have like a little mark on his head in the scene, just as now he's being known for that.
Gotcha.
Even though he's like cleaned up his act, nonetheless. Yeah.
So, open transparency when there's like an issue that needs to be resolved, clearly going to the
Hmm.
person and talking
Hmm.
about things, hopefully without anger and,
Yeah.
judgment,
Yeah.
um, can easily
Yeah.
resolve things, but not everyone will effectively react the way that you're intending
Hmm.
with, said situation.
Hmm.
Um, has there been any deal breakers for you of people that you've potentially worked with,
Hmm.
or you've had to walk away from a project or a partnership due to this said deal breaker?
I mean, yeah. A few times. Yeah. There's been deal breakers of just yeah, because of transparency and lack of transparency.
Gotcha.
This in 2024, for like a good chunk of it, I started. One of the guys who helped out with Warp, he out of nowhere like bought a bar, like just bought a bar, and he's like, "Yo, let's open up a club, let's do it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, dope, like." New project, like let's do this. This guy like owned a bunch of restaurants. I was like, okay, cool. This could be like a little gig too. Like, awesome. So
I
I put in a
remember
bunch of
seeing
time.
stuff about that,
Yeah,
but I
yeah, and
wondered what happened with it.
I put in a lot of time, energy, and money. I put in thousands of dollars, because I had work. I was working at Guitar Center, so I had some really good discounts. So everything was kind of like coming to a head. We were trying to open up as quick as possible so we could like start getting some money and revenue in. So yeah, I decided to put things on a credit card, and I went to business school. They were like, "Don't do that. I get everything in writing." Like that. It's like, no, we're friends. Like I trust we're partnering, so we're trying to do something artsy and cultural. And yeah, so I bought a bunch of speakers and lights and yada yada yada, and yeah, and was not receiving like I was putting in a lot of hours as well, doing a lot of marketing for them, booking all these acts, like trying to start like an electronic underground space in Worcester. And yeah, I just wasn't getting any results from it. First of all, like no one was coming to the shows. Um, so then I'm like, all right, can we at least like pay for ads or something? He's like, dude, we have no money. And I'm like, oh, what? Like we have no money. So yeah, I wish he told me that I was on a sinking ship, basically. Like I feel like I was just taken advantage of. At the end of the day, and I did it almost knowingly because I wanted to do something good. I was like, yo, I was fully aware that I could have been taken advantage of in this situation, but I viewed the the potential as more valuable than myself almost. And yeah. And after a while, I decided, dude, this is enough. Yeah, yeah. He broke one. We made one deal, and he broke that deal. And yeah, I have stopped working with that group now, and now I'm in debt, and it's kind of a bummer.
Thank you
So
for
that's a deal
sharing
breaker.
that. Um, I completely. sympathize and empathize with that because, as
Mm,
you know, some of the experiences we've shared with you over the years of dealing with that
mm,
type of mentalities, you put so much in and you want to create change and you want to, make things happen, but your collaborators, fall through on their promises. They don't pay out what they're supposed to. They
mm,
don't keep their promise. They get a fat head and
mm,
it becomes all about them and they push you
mm,
out because they don't have the mutual respect or transparency to have adult conversations with you.
yeah.
Unfortunately, that is the worst part of our
Yeah.
scene and something I wholeheartedly know you and I both are trying to change, and it's so hard. Heavily pulled back out of my involvement as well,
Mm,
in the scene, and that's why I want to have conversations like these to put the knowledge out there for people that how hard it is for us as artists and people who want to put on events, how hard it is to get the audience there, to get, people to interact, people to care about it. It's very
mm,
hard. How much
mm,
time, money, and energy and resources and love we put into our projects. And
mm,
often don't see them come to the fruitions that we aspire them to be. I'm
mm.
giving you a big hug right now.
Thanks.
Of course.
Thanks.
I hope in the near future we can collaborate on something again.
I think so, dude. If this warehouse goes well, yeah, I think so. I just received some grant money, which is awesome. Over all this stuff, I guess the past year I applied for a Worcester Art grant, and they
That's
hooked me up.
awesome.
Yeah, so that thank God, at least they did appreciate the. It seems like the city appreciated me, which is nice.
That's
Um, yeah, and thanks Worcester, big ups Worcester Arts Council, thanks Mass Cultural Coalition.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
It makes a
Thanks for
difference.
seeing me. Yeah, dude, it's yeah, I think it's gonna help get this warehouse and then start like an art community there, and
That's awesome.
yeah, and start pushing this culture forward because
Create more
yeah,
art.
it needs
Create
it.
more art.
Exactly,
It
exactly.
starts in your hometown. It starts in your small town and in your community.
Yep, exactly, exactly.
What advice would you give to others that are trying to enter this industry about choosing collaborators and making ethical business decisions?
Hmm.
How can aspiring professionals develop a strong and effective business ethos without compromising their image and morality?
Hmm. Honestly, communication is so big, and it's something I'm also really bad at as someone who's a little avoidant. Um,
Thanks for
and
messaging me at 2:15 a.m., bud. Appreciate it.
when was that? Oh, actually, I think that's because that's actually when I saw that, though. I guess we. It's so funny. Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
It's all good.
I don't think that was me being. I really don't think that was me being avoidant. Though I think it was like me actually seeing it. I like took a nap at a weird time yesterday. I was like up until like 5 in the morning. It was stupid.
No
Yeah,
worries. No worries.
yeah,
Little humor goes a long way.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, at least like being open about shit like that with people you're working with is can go a long way. So then when they see it in you, like that's what at least my partner Rob, that's what he's good at. When he's good at least calling me out on some of my avoidance tendencies, which is good.
Your
Um,
friends who are really your friends will hold you
mm,
accountable
mm,
and have hard conversations with you.
yeah,
And people
yeah,
that aren't, they're like those fair weather friends, they won't have those conversations with you. They'll react with anger and,
mm,
judgment and a place of like, I want to be right versus let's resolve this. So
mm,
that's the
mm,
message from me to everybody out there is don't react with anger. People who
yeah,
love you
yeah,
will take the time to resolve issues in a
mm,
compassionate and slow way versus like leave something unresolved.
mm, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. It's a good conversation.
It is, yeah.
um, do you have any role models in the industry who you think have successfully balanced their image versus their moralities?
Hmm.
This could be someone you know, someone you've worked with, could be yourself, your mom. Um,
Oh, interesting.
It could be anybody, like a role model.
Honestly, I really do look up to you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I really do. I love what you're doing. You guys work hard. Yeah, and you inspire me and push me to do a little bit more whenever I see you guys
That
doing
means a
more and more
lot.
and more. Yeah, yeah, it really does.
It means a
I
whole
mean,
lot.
you really do. Yeah, sorry, it really does mean a lot. Sorry, no, you really do though, for real. Um, yeah, and you guys like keep your nose clean and like, as far as I know at least. But yeah, like
Yeah.
I
Um,
haven't heard any drama other than you guys are a couple, like whatever. Like I just went through some shit too, like and yeah, yeah, but that it comes with the territory.
it
But
does.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I learned about that this past year. Oh my God. I was like in my first serious relationship this past like year and a half. I just got out of it maybe like 3 months ago. She just called me during yeah, I haven't talked to her. I don't know what that was about. So part of me, I'm a little distracted right now as well.
All good,
So I was like,
man.
what the hell is that about? So yeah, it's she's coming back right now. But yeah, dude,
Hold
I
firm
really do look up
boundaries
to you
in
guys.
your healing journey.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but God, who else? There's been like other people that I kind of look up to, but they've like done some things that like I don't necessarily agree with in the scene, which is like
Same, I'm with
debatably
you
like
there. I'm
yeah,
with
which is debating like is that like just how it should go with the nature of curation, like especially with techno, like people I mean maybe it's the same with other types of electronic music. Well, maybe not house music. I'm like mostly techno and house, and I know techno they're snobby, like
acid
they're very
house.
like yeah, yeah. But they're yeah, house people are a little more like, okay, we're just trying to have a good time here. No, techno people are like you're playing techno, right? Like it is techno, you must play. And yeah, that's cool but not cool and inspiring but also stifling. And yeah, I don't know how to go about that balance, but I personally enjoy it. I like the pompousness because I think, yeah, the curation I think is something important and that we've lost a little bit in society. Um, just like as we see, like museums are falling apart around the country. Apparently, that's like a thing that like curated art is like dying, like culturally, um,
I
and like
work
that
in a
pompy curated art.
I
Yeah.
work in a historic theater where we do a lot of like plays and ballets and
Hmm.
operas and things like that. And
Hmm.
the numbers of those events can in consideration to like other bigger events like comedy shows or
Hmm.
a music act, the stark difference in the age groups and
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
numbers, it's shocking because it's like becoming a lost art.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as a society, I think we need to save it. We need to do our best to, keep those things alive. Um, that's where the
Yeah.
live aspect comes in of performance.
Hmm.
Because what
Hmm.
if you're doing the background music for an event and you have live art performers on stage? Like that would be, I'd pay
Hmm.
good money to see that.
Agreed. Me
Like
too.
making
Me too.
a live play happen, like improv, would
Hmm.
be incredible.
Hmm.
Maybe that's
That would be
something
awesome.
that would be
That's
awesome.
actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think we should
Out
do
in
it.
Western Mass, they're doing a lot of cool stuff like that. The Western Mass scene, yeah, they're really I think on the cutting edge of but yeah, my last partner is Saluna Medicine. She like does a lot of really cool events out there, like that cater to specifically that like music, art, interaction, like and yeah, it's like call that community like the conscious community. Like they most of those people like think about their place in the world and usually they eat pretty green and yeah, that's where this scene seems to be stemming from, at least this like totally interactive thing, which is interesting. Maybe these really homeopathic and really connected people are the key to yeah, expanding to the rest of the culture. Yeah, but because I think they are part of the underground still. Like, it is almost underground to be green and vegan and whatnot still because I don't know. I'm not like because it's hard. Like
I
it's
used
really
to
hard and
be I used to be a very hardcore vegetarian, and I was
hmm
for many years, and then all of a sudden, I wasn't. I
Mhm.
was listening to what my body needed, and I needed a
Mhm.
change. I
Mhm.
went into it for health reasons, and I
Mhm.
kept with it for a long time. And then, as the years went on, I started to, understand that my body was changing, my thoughts were changing. So my diet needed to change too. And it's
Mhm.
been a good thing. So, choose whatever works for you, whatever's right for you
Yeah.
at the time in your life that you need it. It's okay to be different and be a vegan versus a meat eater.
Right. But
There's
you're
nothing wrong with
conscious and
it.
you're like
Yeah.
listening to your body
Yeah.
is what I guess mostly what I'm getting at is like people who are super conscious and like yeah, who understand you can listen to their body basically. I have a tough time with that personally. Um
I also
yeah.
I also think that the music that we constantly digest,
Hmm.
mainstream music versus underground music versus music that doesn't necessarily fit types of genre. Um, a lot of the mainstream poppy kind of music, it all sounds flat to me. It all sounds the same to me. It sounds like AI made it and it doesn't
Hmm.
sound real. The
Hmm.
over perfection of music makes things sound flat. I lose
Hmm.
interest throughout the song because it's just all the same. But if a
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
performance, there might be, a miss hit on the keys, or,
Hmm.
tune your guitar just off, just ever so slightly on one
Hmm.
string, or the oscillation and crack in somebody's voice. I
Hmm.
listen for those things. I love
Hmm.
those things. I love to
Hmm.
hear the subtle imperfection because it makes you feel alive. It holds your attention.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
might be my hot
interesting.
take for the day.
No, no, that is interesting, and that's something I've been battling with as someone who does this live, is like this music live with DJs a lot. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you're the DJ, right?" They don't even think I'm like making it live, especially like I'm like in the back or like typically I'm like in a corner or something. And yeah, no one knows what I'm doing. So, yeah, I've been like battling with this thought like what matters, man? Like what even matters to the listener? Which I'm like you as a listener, like I do love those imperfections. But man, I like saw a YouTube comment this week that said maybe it was a bot that wrote it, but it said something like this pre-AI music is pretty good, but it's nothing compared to what AI is making now. And I read that comment like, no fucking way. Like, no way.
I bet you an
No
AI
way.
bot wrote that comment
Like
about AI.
maybe, but maybe people just really love like the perfectness, so like they need it perfect or something like, which everyone's music is subjective.
When I was in
Um,
college, my
yeah.
college professor was a audio engineer for over 30 years. He was
Hmm.
saying from the early days till now, there's a huge problem with the over perfection of music and how
Hmm.
it's changing the industry from the inside out. Um,
Hmm.
how a lot of like certain aspects to actual music creation are being pushed into like an over perfect
Hmm.
nature,
Hmm.
especially now with like AI. A
Hmm.
lot of electronic music, think about it like this. All of the distortion that you have on a guitar pedal, right?
Hmm.
You record that, you see like in the recording like all the different levels, right?
Hmm.
It's going to go in and out of key. It's not
Yeah.
going to be like one
Yeah.
key, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that about like producing electronic music, like all the different layers and all the different things going
Hmm.
on can like
Hmm.
change the key and how something sounds. So, and
Hmm.
it might not be
Hmm.
completely accurate too.
Hmm.
That's something I
Hmm.
truly love.
Hmm.
Breaking the rules,
Yeah. Yeah.
breaking the rules,
Exactly. That's
break
what
those
AI
rules.
doesn't totally understand, which is, I
Exactly.
think, yeah, I think that's gonna help humans a lot. Is like, yeah, which is a big part of art is just to keep pushing the boundaries, and like, fuck you, like, I'm gonna do this. Like, that's the art that I love. Is like almost countercultural, like pushing
Yeah.
against the bubble bursting, sort of. Yeah,
It's almost
yeah.
like a live painter throwing paint at a canvas and then he makes the art around the splotches. I have a friend that does that.
Hmm.
I absolutely
Hmm.
love it. It comes something totally unique every time.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah, you're working with
Yeah,
chaos. Yeah.
yeah. Controlled
Hmm.
chaos, entropic.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
Getting pulled in the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Oh man. Um, have you made any personal choices that prioritize either your image versus your morality? And can you give us an example?
Yeah, most recently, yeah. So,
Okay.
I've had this idea in my head, which we were talking about earlier, for a few years now, just as like kind of an expression as being like a live performer with a bunch of DJs, and some groups treat me very well. Other groups are like, "Oh shit, like we forgot about you. Like we don't really have electricity, or like you can go over there." So yeah, it's a lot of there's. I've just experienced a lot of like it's not the space for me. I always don't
The
feel welcome in
blatant
a lot of spaces.
disrespect.
Yeah, yeah, or not necessarily disrespect. I don't think it's necessarily um, purposeful. I don't think they're doing it out of to be disrespectful. I think it's just yeah, it's their space is not accustomed to I guess what I'm trying to do artistically. So through
Gotcha.
that I've been thinking of putting on these shows which is no DJs allowed, and I'm like, man, what would I call it? Like I've been thinking of all these names. Like there are some really there are groups around the country that have some cool names. Out in Boston there was Beautiful Machines, which is cool. They it's all synthesized modular stuff.
That's cool.
Um, they just moved to New York City. Now in Boston, there's this group called Patchwork, which is like modular patches and whatnot. So those are cool little catchy names. They kind of go with uh, go with the vibe. So I've been trying to think of a name. And man, I like no DJs allowed. Like that's a hell of a statement. Like just no DJs allowed. So I've been thinking about it, talking to people about it for maybe a couple years, and I was like scared of it almost because it's like a hell of a statement. And then all of a sudden, I like just went on Instagram and I created an account and I typed in no DJs allowed, and it was available, and I was like, no fucking way. Like
Yeah.
all these years, like no one took this, like no one had this thought all these years of those three words. Like no
I
way. I go on all these other sites, no DJs allowed is totally open. I'm like,
I
yeah.
think
I'm like,
it's
no
just
way.
a misnomer that that's the industry standard, just like Pioneer decks. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not with it.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I
Don't
just
hate
kind of
on me
just
though, because I do DJ. So
no, and I know, and a lot of people are like, "Well, am I allowed?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're not gonna like check your ID at the door. Like, we don't give a shit.
we're gonna
We're not gonna check your DJ card or anything like that. Like, no, it's just a space that I've
Dan,
always wanted.
you
Just
failed. No entry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's curated for electronic musicians, live musicians like me, and
So
it's kind of yeah.
let's hypothetically say me and CJ wanted to get in there. We had a DJ deck, but we hooked up our Akai MPC, played with that. Would that be something that would be passable? Because it's still live, but it's also like we got the interim kind of thing as well.
So maybe that is a very good question that I've been balancing with on how to go about this. Because I'm curating it at the end of the day.
Mhm.
I guess I'd need to see a video at the end of the day. I want to know like is it performative? Like what else are you doing? Like sure I've seen a bunch of people like with a bunch of synthesizers and shit just hit play and like that's it and they move a few knobs and I'm like I probably wouldn't book those guys because I need like something. I need like human, like I need more humanity involved. Um, so yeah, it depends. Yeah, it just totally depends what you guys are doing, I guess. And yeah, I would
Charlie
like
and
to see
I,
it. Yeah.
Charlie and I have actually been, over the last like, year and a half to going on two now, got a lot of like lo-fi, chill, jammy stuff that we like, do on the
Mm-hmm.
MPC, dual
Mm-hmm.
MPC thing.
Mm-hmm.
But having like a full hour length set with those things is hard. Like,
Mm-hmm. Right.
um,
Right.
he's got a little more content than I would in that regard because programming the thing and getting everything working in conjunction
Yeah,
with each other
it's
is
annoying.
that's
Yeah.
the challenge.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
challenge. The time it takes to set up and prep that type of set
Mm-hmm.
as
And I guess that's
well.
why I'm also putting in like very difficult requirements as well with some of my reach out. I just put out an ad recently for No DJ Allowed, which actually did very well on Instagram. It's probably
Really?
the best ad I've ever like posted for any show I've done. Yeah, because it's just like really blatant marketing and advertising, and it just says no DJs allowed, big neon red letters, and just like these are
I've
the
seen
demands.
it.
Like gotta pay, yeah, yeah, yeah. 'Cause, like 90-minute sets, like electronic music. Yeah, it's just like in your face, and I think that is gonna be like. I think the branding of it itself is like the art part, my artistic portion to it, which I've been having a lot of fun with. Um, anyways, and I've been like wanting to delve more and more into visual art because of this. But I guess this is bringing back to the question you asked, like back to the morality of it.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of, this is like, but it's part of the art project as well. Like I'm kind of being a dick. Like that is a part of
In
this.
a funny way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's all like it's
I'm
all for
not
love of the
offended
culture.
as someone who DJs. I'm not offended. I think it's great.
I'm
I think it's
glad. I'm very
hilarious.
glad because I
I'm
am
with it.
worried. I'm worried I'm offending some people, which some people have come up to me like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And I'm like, and then I'll explain it to them like, "All right, all right, all right." So maybe yeah, I need to like make some sort of public statement or something maybe, and be like, "Hey, like I love DJs," because it is a love letter to DJs. At the end of the day, we're trying to do what you guys do, but like with like live, which is hard. It's
It
very
is.
difficult. So, um, yeah, I guess I am kind of going past my morals of like being very open, which is usually what I've done, putting on music events. But I
Gotcha.
mean, I still run the open jam and stuff like that. So I guess that's like my way that I'm still being very open and like letting the community just like, yeah, like get on stage and do whatever once a week. And so then this no DJs allowed thing is my very like this is my very pompy project, which is just like all the techno groups I've tried playing for around the country too. They're all very like meh,
I
not good
look
enough
at
yet.
it
I'm like okay.
I look at that starkness of the actual statement as a challenge for me to
Hmm.
take a look at
Hmm.
my performance skills and,
Hmm.
going in the direction of like, with AI technology and things like that, what I like to do might become a lost art in a few years where it's not a popular thing anymore.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, does that necessarily threaten me? No, because that would push me to gain more skills
Hmm.
to be a better musician just in general,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
apply new things.
Hmm.
I never necessarily wanted to be a DJ. I just wanted to perform music. I just
Hmm.
wanted to produce music. And,
Right.
those
Right.
things, come hand in hand. It's like, oh, you make
Absolutely.
music? Let's have you spin. And that's kind of just
Hmm.
how it started with me. It wasn't even like, oh, I'm going to become a DJ. My friends were like, we're making you do it.
Right. 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 Well, it helps if you love music too. Like
I
that, people
do
are
love
definitely more prone to DJ. Like
it. I
my
do love
friends who
it.
like made playlists back in like middle school and shit like that, like are really good DJs now because they like thought
I
about
took
that.
pride in it.
I was very bad at that, which I think is why I was never attracted to DJing in a sense because I didn't know song names and like I like yeah, my brain just doesn't work like that. Which why I appreciate the heck out of DJs and why they've done so well is because they could find
There's
the
a
perfect songs to go into each
difference
other. Yeah,
between being a DJ and being a good DJ. And my hot
yeah,
take
that
on
too.
this is yes, by all means, play music that you like, but also play music that challenges your knowledge of music. Get
Hmm.
comfortable
Hmm.
with experimenting with different genres, doing things unexpected, mixing and
Right.
mashing, practicing, you know, different songs, knowing your music to the point where you could play a show seamlessly and have multiple things to do for each song that you've practiced or even
Right.
improvised. Um,
Right.
I've had several people comment to me about my DJing over the years, and they're like, "Well, how do you do that? How do you play a song that I produced and make it sound different
Hmm.
than how I ever imagined it to?" And I was like, it comes down to like controlling, the FX and knowing the songs and trying something new.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
mixing for a DJ, most people just like hit buttons and turn knobs. I kind of like engineer the sound while I'm DJing. That's
Hmm.
why I like
Hmm.
Denon because it has these really cool like touch FX and you can like kind of control things fine
Right.
tunedly a little bit better.
Mhm.
oscillation of things. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Or I'll like, tweak something on the song like in Ableton and then I'll put it on the deck to sound different too. A lot of people like, you actually take the time to do that. I was like, yeah, I do.
Oh, word.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my god,
do.
yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
like
that's
put
like,
different
yeah,
things in
time.
there to
Mhm.
like interact with. Like I never use cue points. It's all live with me.
Oh, word. And that just
Never
helps you
use cue
connect
points.
deeper with the music too. That's
Mhm.
like, that's cool. I respect the fuck out of that with
Yeah.
DJs, and I kind of envy that a little bit. Maybe one day. One day I might pick it up. But right now I'm still on this journey. And
You
yeah.
got this. I think you should stay
Yeah.
true to yourself, but always be willing to learn something.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I got a lot of heat for putting like, the little notation stickers of like on my piano. And I was like, dude, I'm a visual person. I need to, I
Mhm.
can't, without colors, I can't memorize things,
No word. Yeah. Yeah.
and they're like, oh, take that off. I was like, no, it helps me. Why is it bothering you so much? Just leave me
Yeah.
alone.
Yes. No, I've actually seen like some people do that on really big stages too. And I'm like, no way. I'm like, dude, I just like kind of need it. Sometimes dark too. And I'm like, can't see shit. I'm like, all right, valid. You're, who am I to judge? You're clearly doing totally better than I am. Like, yeah. And they play well. And like, yeah, doesn't matter. I'm just lucky I have like a good little mind's eye for that. Like, I'm good at like just feeling it out,
Yeah.
which I got lucky with. Yeah.
I focus visually on it versus like
Hmm.
just abstract, like how something
Mm.
sounds. Like
Mhm.
as weird as that sounds.
Mhm.
I've definitely seen plenty of musicians like play two different pianos and two different keys at the same time. And I was like, what? Like,
Dude.
how? And then like
Oh
play,
my god.
do the chaos pads. I've seen a lot of people do that and loop things
Mhm.
in while they're singing and then they flop to another instrument. And I'm just like, that shit blows
Yeah.
my mind. I wish I could do that with
Mhm.
like proficiency. That's what
Mhm.
I look up to
Mhm.
so much with the live aspect of music. It's like,
Mhm.
I wish I
Mhm.
could do that without fucking up. Please show me how. What are you doing, wizards?
Just practice, practice, practice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Mhm.
That's true. Let's see. I got another question for you.
Mhm.
What challenges would you like to see? I'm sorry. What changes would you like to see to support artists in maintaining their image and integrity?
Oh man, yeah. Something needs to be done with social media. Um
Ooh, hot take.
it was working so well for a while, I think, for artists and curating an image, and it still does to an extent, but um I, I I just think the way it went, it was heavily invested, and now everyone's wanting their investment back. So now everything's just so monetized on these social media platforms
Mhm.
that that I really took for granted, honestly. Um, yeah, so now like Facebook sucks. Like in a Facebook event, like that's almost pointless now. Like Facebook events were like the shit 10 years ago, and now like what's the point of doing one of these? Like it's not gonna be put in anyone's notifications. Like if it is, they have a trillion events anyways that they've been invited to for this, that, and the other thing because of some page they followed 20 years ago that now is taken. Like who knows? 20 years ago, maybe a little too far. Sorry,
I
but
miss MySpace.
yeah, MySpace is cool for that.
I
Like
miss MySpace.
there needs to be something. I don't know if you know Mr. Isley,
Yes.
D&B guy. Yeah, he started
Yep.
like a forum, like an old
I
school
love
forum up
it.
again.
I
And I'm
love
like, dude, God bless you, bro. Like that's fucking awesome. Like,
Yes.
um, so yeah, I guess just finding other means. Like, I think we're just finding that like our new overlords like are basically that. Like they're just fucking with us basically, and yeah, we need to rely on each other again. Like the scene in the '90s didn't have any of this stuff, and like it was so cool. Like what are we missing other than like we're content being inside now and like looking at
We
our
have
phones?
phones
Like
now.
yeah,
We
yeah,
have attention deficit disorder times a
I
million.
guess so. Like yeah,
Um, I think too, back then, the counterculture to find the rave, the journey to find the rave, to find those
mm,
people in itself was when you did. you were treated so openly and differently, and then you protected that space in a way, whereas
Hmm.
now today I don't think we do that. I don't think we
Hmm.
protect the space. We don't treat it in a sacred way. um
Hmm.
the counterculture has become the culture,
Hmm.
and I think the mainstreamness of it kind of killed that vibe, and
Hmm.
I feel like we should at some point kind of go back to the non-mainstream artistry behind it. The commonality we have between us as people is we
Hmm.
ran to this counterculture because we wanted to find a space where we could feel free, where we could dance and no one would laugh, where
Hmm.
we could
Hmm.
wear cat ears and a tail if we wanted to, and it was okay,
Yeah.
and we could express ourselves without judgment. But so much of that I feel is becoming lost because people are making it a commodity.
Hmm.
Online, it's the
Yeah.
cool thing to go to a rave and wear all these you know,
Right.
I hate
Right.
to say it clothes because it's not, but
It's
straps, I
like
guess.
costumes and yeah, yeah.
The costumes and the
Scraps.
artistry
I
is
see what you
cool,
mean.
but it's like
Scraps. It's
you
funny.
see all these influencers online posting about all these cool things that they're doing,
Hmm.
but the reality is like it's falling on deaf ears because those are the people that make me not want to go.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
And then some groups are doing like no phone parties, which I think is interesting.
mhm,
Um, yeah, which maybe that's something to think about
that'd be cool.
in doing things. But then like you can't totally have no phones. Like what? No one's gonna post an Instagram story. Like, we're at a cool party. Like come on. Like at least if they tag you or something. Like how do I? There's got to be like a way to do it. So like, oh
Well,
man.
you have these
Like
back from in the 90s, you had like the camcorder, or you had like the click where you got the
yeah,
pictures. I
yeah.
think if maybe we had the option to like a
Hmm.
no phone thing, but you took those cameras and like little clipped to remember something. I've seen some
That's a good
people do
idea.
those at events.
That's a good
The
idea.
other thing too is like camcorder, like
Oh.
micro camcorder, like GoPro. Walk
Oh,
around
and
with
like keep
those.
it on like a Google Drive for like a week or something, and like, yo, everyone, like the camcorder videos, like, oh, that's a kind of good idea.
Yeah,
Something to think
go
about.
back to the old school because you have all these rare clips that you see go around the internet sometimes of like
Hmm.
old stuff like from way back then. And
Hmm.
you see like the people dancing, and there's not a phone in sight. There's people just
Yeah.
in the moment feeling that vibe. I feel like we
But
need to
then,
get back to
yeah,
that.
and you take a picture with your friends, and then you have that picture. You have like that physical thing with you. No one has like physical things. You don't even get tickets anymore nowadays. I'm like going to my phone. Even at underground raves, it's like I'm scanning a QR code at the underground rave. Yeah, see, that's awesome. And you save those. You have what? You have a little box for that? Yeah, you're gonna look at those for the rest of your life.
Yep. I
Yeah.
remember a girl I didn't know came up to me while I was performing. She's like, "Can I take a picture of you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And she gave me the picture after I performed, and I'm
That's
like so
awesome.
grateful for that.
Yeah.
That made me feel special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, this too at a friend's like party.
Yeah.
Someone was going around, and I'm like dancing with a giant banana. Why? I just, just in the
Yeah.
moment. I love that. We should bring stuff like that back.
Yeah,
Interactive.
you're absolutely right. I like that a lot. I didn't think about that.
Mhm.
What an insightful conversation we're having.
I
It's
love
great.
it. I love
Some
it.
some good print
Um,
cameras out. It's like 5 or 6 of them. Just at the party, you know?
yeah, and just have like 100 rolls sitting on the
Yeah.
table,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and just, have a post when people like on the door when you come inside. Please use the cameras. Leave your phones in your pocket. Enjoy being in the space and being in the moment. Hug your
Hmm.
friends rather than want to
Hmm.
like post pictures to social media.
Right.
You're losing the vibe that way. I feel like everybody's on
Yeah.
their phones putting Snapchat. I
Yeah.
don't use Snapchat.
I don't either. I tried back, yeah, like 10 years ago. I tried and I just didn't get it. It's
My hot
so,
take is
yeah,
I don't trust people that use Snapchat.
it's funny. Yeah, now that I
I'm
think about it, I don't really
sorry.
hang
I
out with people who use
automatically get
Snapchat.
the ick if you tell me you respond to me like, "Oh, go snap me." I'm like, "Ick." Okay, no.
It is kind of weird when you watch somebody Snapchatting their friend. in public, you like see them make their face and like type the thing in. I'd
I
always
mean,
watch people and be like, huh.
don't get me wrong, like the filters are cool. Um,
Yeah, yeah, it's fun. You're keeping
like
communication up with friends,
but
loved ones.
like the
Yeah, I feel
filters are
it.
cool and like the playing with like your imagery through like AI and stuff, like that's fun. But it's like
Hmm.
I will do that and I'll just download the picture. I don't talk to anybody.
Right, right.
Like I
Well,
used
apparently it was like a Riz thing back in the day. Thing. It's like if you had game,
if you
you were
got
on you
that
were on
Snapchat
Snapchat.
number, the higher that number is, the higher if you have on my scale. You sneaky. You sneaky. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable.
That's funny. I don't even know about the number. I don't even know that's a thing. It does.
Well, you
Yeah.
said Riz, and I assumed you were talking about like the number like clock thing that shows you like your
Oh no,
like snap score or whatever.
I thought Riz was like the new age word for like the like flirtatious game that you got. That's what I was getting at. I was trying to be
Okay.
young. I'm being young
Okay.
here.
All right. I do know what Riz means, but I thought you meant something else. See, just I'm
Oh,
showing my
maybe
age
all
too.
right.
Ooh, okay. I lost my page here. Whew. Do you have any questions or anything that you want to talk about? Because I remember we highlighted your new project. Um, do you
Yeah.
have any specific thoughts on, let's see, being independent versus having a manager, or people doing work for you to manage your life as an artist? Do you think that that's like an important thing? Because I feel like you're set up to be like in somebody's pocket when you're like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I
um
guess it really. Oh yeah. You got more to add to that?
I was trying to put together a more well thought out thought to that. It's a huge problem right now in our industry for independent artists to hit a threshold to gain an audience and make it sustainable so that way they
Mm-hmm.
can make income off of this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, I think, will, especially in the local scenes, will like have someone else do the management for them, and
Hmm.
um it can be kind of predatory in the small region and in the mega region too, like when you're getting into like contracting when it comes to like touring and things like that. um
Right.
the struggles for independent people like Rabbit Hole, like what you're doing. We
Mm-hmm.
give people a platform, but we don't own the rights to their music. It's a
Right.
different type of thing. What are your thoughts on that as a whole in the industry?
Yeah.
Independent
So
versus signed.
yeah, there's definitely value, obviously, in like having a manager getting signed. It's definitely something I would like personally.
Mhm,
Um, maybe not nowadays when I have so much time to focus on this, but
mhm.
um, yeah, especially when I was working full time. Like, dang, this would be nice. Like to have somebody take something off the top. Like, I don't care. I'm just trying to get out more.
Mhm.
Um, so, but yeah, we just gotta, I guess, like read read the papers, like make sure there's a contract signed and make sure that it's fair. Um, and to show it to a bunch of people who aren't like as clouded as I would probably be if I got a contract and be like, oh no way, like take my soul, I don't care, like can we play however many times a year, like hell yeah.
I think
Um,
I think
yeah,
globally the predatory vampiricness of
yeah,
this industry and the allure of fame and money often distracts people from knowing what they're
mm,
signing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
that's why
exactly.
that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, maybe yeah, definitely showing a lot of people what you're signing. Unless if there's an NDA, then that's sketchy. Like you should be able to
Yeah,
show your mom or your dad or
right.
yeah, loved ones, people who love you and want what's best for you, like to look at it with skepticism. And yeah, cuz I know I've been very excited and signed contracts just because like, oh screw it, I want this like space or I want this
Have
XYZ.
you have you ever been screwed over where your contract wasn't fulfilled?
No, no. Every actual contract I've worked with has been fulfilled. Yeah, problems only arise when there isn't a contract. Like at the
I would
like
agree.
what I was talking about earlier. Yeah, I bought a bunch of speakers for this guy, and yeah, did not have anything in writing. Didn't, and I was told by people I should have, and I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I trust this guy. Like, trust can only. This sounds so bad, but trust can only get you so far. Like,
Unfortunately,
yeah, and like maybe like you can trust yourself. Like, maybe because I see myself in people too much, and like I trust myself with others. Like I've never owed. Well, now besides this credit card company, like, I've never owed anyone money before. Like I've been a man of my word my whole life. 31 years old. Like I can say that with pride. Other people I work with have not done that. So um, yeah, I guess just realizing that even if you are a good person, like
I
to
agree.
be skeptical and not everyone's as good as you,
Seeing
and like
myself in
yeah.
everybody else, man, that got me in my core. I do the same thing. I see me and everybody else, and I hold them to that, and that's where
Yeah.
I fucked up.
Like, why would they ever do that? Like, how could you think like that? Like, why would anyone? Yeah, like, no, like,
Last
I have my brain works differently, clearly than others, like, and yours too, and like,
last
yeah,
year,
yeah.
last year I went through something that really, really changed my perspective on things. I got approached about this first time festival, and all the homies were like, yo, we want to play. And then I was like, I don't want to be involved with this. I don't think we should do it. It's not going to end well.
Hmm.
Um, next thing you know, everybody's like, we want to do it. And I was like, okay. And they were like, we want you to help. So I helped. I wrote the contracts. I did all the promotions. I did all these things. And then very quickly, I realized that I was the bad guy for trying to help in other people's eyes, and that
Hmm.
I wasn't giving enough and doing enough, which, I wasn't involved with the festival at all outside of booking these people and making sure their needs were taken care of.
Hmm.
And then all these people came at me. Um, where it really hit the head was all the artists that I had booked and wrote the contracting for. There was no promotion done by the festival at all. It was all being done by me. And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden, one of the main reasons I didn't want to get involved with this festival is because there was a group of certain individuals where they are on my do not work with list.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't want to be involved because they were involved with this festival. And I was like, I just don't have a good idea for a lot of different reasons. And I should have trusted my gut because that group of people rebooked all of the other artists that I had booked under our umbrella, and all of their big promotions came out online the day before. They were all supposed to play like the day before, and none of those people thought to tell me. I had to find out like that. And that like burned me. Like it
Hmm.
hurt because I was too close to the sun, man. I pulled an Icarus, and I was
Hmm.
like, I tried to help and do something good, and now I'm the bad guy. Okay. That hurt.
Damn.
It's like y'all got greedy. You couldn't just tell me you wanted to play more than once at this festival. Like I could have made
Hmm.
sure your contracts were good with these other people. It didn't explicitly say in the contract you can't perform elsewhere, but it's like, how would you not think that's a conflict of interest?
Hmm.
Unfortunately speaking.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
kind of pulled back. Don't really do a lot of that anymore. And if I do, it'll be for a very special scenario.
Right. Right.
Uh, they never really paid out to
Oh,
the
really?
agreement of what was in that contract. I mean, I made sure I contacted the artist. I'm like, did y'all
Hmm.
get paid? And they were like, yeah, we got paid. And I was like, cool. And then I wiped my hands of it. I was like, I'm not going to fight anymore because this is not what the agreement was, but whatever. I'm done. Wipe my hands of it. I went into like this
Right.
black hole depression. I'm like, why do I do this? Why do I try to help people? You know, getting taken advantage of. And it's like, unfortunately, the way I look at it versus the way you might look at it, or, the third party people, you don't have all the facts of everything. So reacting with
Hmm.
anger and judgment and, why this, why that, it's like clear, transparent communication. I can't help you with things that I don't know about that you're doing. And then when you get
Hmm.
blindsided, then you're like, oh shit, like what? And then you're like
Hmm.
angry. And it's like, why is this a
Yeah.
big secret? And then you like
Yeah.
try to
Yeah.
talk about it and everybody
Mhm.
gets mad and it's like a pissing match. And I'm just like, I can't operate like that. I just shut down.
Right. Right.
Anything like that ever happened to you?
I mean, I guess yeah, just with that bar mostly was probably
Yeah.
the the closest to that, but nothing really like exploded.
Mm,
Basically, I just like took my equipment back
gotcha.
and that was that.
Is
Basically,
did that bar go under?
no, it's still around. It's still kicking and like I have like a techno group on Facebook, Worcester Techno, and this guy just like keeps posting the flyers there for, and they're like really bad AI flyers. Like, so I just banned him recently from
Oh
the
my
group
god.
because they're just like, it's not even like, dude, you're like techno's not even spelled right, bro. Like, come on, like you can use AI, but like do creative stuff, like make it not look AI, like do something
There
good with it. Like,
there are
there's
plenty
ways
of
to use AI
resources out
well.
there to that are
Yeah,
pretty cheap, if not free, to put text on a flyer.
yeah. So, yeah, just real, yeah. Choose choose who you want to work with wisely. And have that like have higher standards is something that
Vet
I
people.
needed at least. Yeah, vet
Vet
people,
people.
but have higher standards as well. Like, sure, vet them. Like, I did vet these people, and like, I don't think the guy who owns the bar is necessarily a bad guy. I think he just did something really stupid and
Doesn't want to take
isn't mature
responsibility for
enough.
it.
Yeah, yeah, isn't mature enough to like take responsibility or anything for it. Um, yeah. So yeah, I don't think he like wanted. He went into this like, haha, I'm gonna fuck over Sunshine. Like, what an idiot, stupid guy is gonna be friendly, and I'm gonna take advantage. No, no, I think like, yeah, we just didn't write anything on paper, and like one thing led to another. Um, yeah, it all came to a head. I told him not to use my speakers just in case they broke when I wasn't around,
Mhm.
and then all that money I spent on the speakers would be worth nothing at that point. I was like, dude, don't use them. Once you get the money to pay me for them, then we can set them all up again. We'll be good. And then like I went on a little tour, and uh, I was throwing a little party, like a memorial party for a friend who passed away. And I was like, oh yeah, I got like subwoofers at this bar. Like, let me go pick them up. So I went to the bar. I went down in the basement where they were supposed to be, where that's where I put them. And they weren't in the basement. I was like, what the heck? And they were all set up like on the dance floor, like ready to like plugged in and everything like that. So I took them all back. It's like a bitter, it's like bitterly took them all back. And he hasn't contacted me about anything. He doesn't reach out or anything about it. So he's
Well,
also avoidant, which is great. Two avoidant people is awesome. It really works out well. So I mean, I got all these speakers. Like I'm getting hired to use these speakers at parties. So I guess it's kind of cool. I'm like finding some use out of them.
that's
And
good.
yeah. So and now hopefully if I get this warehouse, these will be like the warehouse's PA system. So
Nice.
it'll be all good. I'm just in debt, but people get out of debt. Like it's not the end of the world. Like and what I was just thinking about your story too. Like
We just spent the last
everything keeps
2 years
going,
of
dude.
our life dealing with the debt, and
Yeah.
we're still dealing with that. Like not as
But
bad as it was
but
with all
fuck it, you're still
equipment and
alive.
blunders
Like
and
yeah.
ISR stuff. I won't name the festival or the people or the old collaborators or just in that general span of back then in time. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and it took us a good like 2 years,
Damn. Yeah.
to pay back that shit. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's rough
I've
out there.
heard I've heard a lot of rough things about everyone running festivals.
Mm.
And yeah.
I will not get
Heard
involved in.
crazy numbers.
I
Some
will not
crazy negative
get
numbers.
involved with running events or festival like stuff that I cannot afford. I will not
Yeah.
bite off more than I can chew. I make a
Yeah.
budget for an event. I'm like, I'm sticking to this, and I contact people, and I'm like, hey, this is what I can offer. Flexible, within, the means.
Right.
And usually it works out because I never try to, effectively burn someone or not, treat them fairly for their time and stuff like that. But it's like, if you want sustainable business practices, you have to practice sustainable business.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
had several people be like, "Oh, why don't
Yeah.
you just like go pull in this big headliner?" And I'm like, "With what money?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see what
Like
kind of
these
car I
guys
drive? I
are
drive a 2015
asking,
Honda." Like,
yeah. And also,
come on
yeah, these
now,
headliners are charging some pretty hefty prices. I mean, I guess
they
it makes
are.
them a nice living to play 10 gigs a year, I guess, but like, come on, these guys also can do a little bit more to help the scene out. Um, themselves. Like, yeah, they're like some of my biggest influences, at least. Like, I've just like screwed around. Like, all right, what if like if I could dream one day and be like, oh, I'm not paying 20 grand for anybody to play a fucking party. Like, you kidding me? Like, I'm gonna pay 20 grand and have like cool interactive things. Like, not for one act.
I
Like,
would
that
put 20 grand
blows my
down on a
mind.
venue for the community to throw down.
Yeah, exactly. The venue, the speaker system, like the
Yeah,
lighting, like
yeah.
one guy I'm spending 20 grand on. Like, I, again, they're doing it. I guess that's how they want to go about their life. But I don't find it ethical or
Gotcha.
yeah, or useful to the scene. Yeah. All
Gotcha.
right, maybe ethical, maybe is not the greatest word to use. I I wouldn't do it. I would
Do
feel
you
weird
do you
morally if.
think like people are blindsided by like what it looks like, what kind of speakers, who's playing, like
Hmm.
because that's what the ish
Hmm.
of what's popular, what you see
Most
online, people
proper, yeah.
interact
Yeah.
with. I feel like
Yeah.
the fakeness of social media and the allure of rich things or
Hmm.
attractive things kind of blindsides people from wanting to interact with the local because they think, oh,
Hmm.
because it's local, it's cheap, it's
Hmm.
not well put together, there might
Right.
not be professional people's running these things. I think that
Right.
too, um
Hmm.
in comparison to something like in Boston, Big Night Live versus
Right.
like some
Right.
grimy basement, but it's like that could be the coolest show of your life.
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
some of the best things I've ever been to have been like basement parties or
Hmm.
like Ziggurat, what used to be done in, Boston with
Hmm. With the Reliquarium guys there.
Reliquarium.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. We need to
Agreed.
get back to our roots. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be big, flashy, showy. It just has to be intimate. I
Yes.
feel like the intimacy is like lost with it.
I agree with that. But then there's even like, sadly, there's a lot of precedent with some groups who have decided to pay big money for a headliner. And then like, oh, all of a sudden like the place is packed now, like, because we got a headliner. Maybe does that help the brand for the collective now that we like got all these headliners in? It shows that we're more legit. Is like you got like, is it a good investment to make for people to trust in? I guess our curation if we want to do local things. That's what I've been wondering recently. But yeah, I just can't just personally. I don't have the funding to justify headliners right now,
Yeah.
anyways. But
Charlie and I,
yeah.
some months back last year and the previous year, we're trying to collectively put the funds together to put together a show with a decent headliner and stuff like that. And we just ran the numbers and we got close to doing it, but it was just like, this is not a sustainable thing, not for us, not right now.
Mm.
It's just going to
Yeah.
be too much of a risk,
Hmm.
unfortunately speaking. And that's kind of why we're just like, we want to help the underground, we want to help the local people. We were going to do all local stuff and then the headliner people,
Right.
persons, peoples. I'm trying to be
Right.
I know. The other thing too I think helps is um getting involved with expanding your network. I know you did a fair amount of traveling
Hmm. Hmm.
recently and played in different places and got to know different people here and there.
Yeah.
Um, I think putting your toes in different ponds, meeting different people, and being a business leader that way as well is
Mhm.
beneficial.
I'd agree. And it's just been like a cool experience as well. Like I haven't gotten the furthest I went so far is Columbus, Ohio. Um, and that was fun, dude. Like they put me up in a Motel 6. Not the best vibe, but still, it's dope. They put me up in a motel, dude. Like what?
It's awesome.
That's the clutch, honestly. Better than I'm getting. I was thinking of sleeping in my car, like tight. So yeah, it felt nice to like be treated almost like as an out of towner as well, and like yeah, treated well.
That's
Yeah,
good.
and it definitely helped the brand as well. People take you a little bit more seriously when you're taking yourself more seriously. Yeah.
I think we have about just shy of a half hour to that 2 hour mark. I
Hmm.
wanted to touch on one of the most important subject matters that I have in my arsenal of questions.
Okay.
Um, Mental health in our industry for artists and professionals. How do you think we can reduce the stigmas of mental health issues in our industry? Can we prioritize them to make more effective progress?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because, you know, as artists and professionals, we have all these expectations put on us by our peers, by artists themselves, by our audiences, you know, on social media. And it's really a deep, pervasive problem for people just in general. But in
Hmm.
this industry, it's the mental health issues are very prevalent, and this
Hmm.
goes into substance abuse, self abuse, you know, as well.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
Diminishing like who you really are to try to fit in.
Hmm.
Do you have any thoughts on these particular issues?
Yeah, a little bit. It's it's complicated. It's not something I have as much experience in personally.
Mhm.
Um, However, I've watched some other groups handle it pretty well. Like Fractal Tribe, for instance, they typically have like a vibes team. Um, at like every single event, they'd even if it's like a smaller, like more underground party or for their festivals or for their summer series, they have a vibe crew. Um, and those are yeah, there are resources there who are wearing some sort of vest or something um, that are known to be some sort of resource for people who are experiencing any sort of mental health crisis. Um,
Discomfort, like in the moment.
yeah, yeah, and also like
Harm
any
reduction
discomfort. Yeah.
practices.
Yeah, so then that's another thing too. So yeah, the group that I played out with in Columbus, they had like a dance safe kiosk at like the entrance. So like, with all like the little things like this is what this drug is, little cards and
Right.
whatnot. Um and I thought that was cool, like I think more groups should strive to like talking with their local like needle exchange group as well. I just did that recently. They're willing to give me oh my god, I was about to call it fentanyl. Jesus Christ, Narcan strips.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, they were like, oh dude, let us know where you'll have a party. We'll give you Narcan just in case. I was like, that's great to know. But then you need like a team of people. Like this starts then complicating the events you're throwing, which then yeah makes them even harder. But then I guess if you do have these resources, it shows the community that you're even more of a safe space. I think, and that it will just like it's a win-win at that point, and I think you can do nothing but grow from there if you do provide those resources. But it is hard just to like find a vibes team, like
Mhm.
find somebody like those people who run the vibes team are like really good humans, like, and they're tough to find, like people
Mom
who
and dads.
yeah,
And
exactly, it's
in
tough to find
between.
people who are like willing to not want to party and like no, let's talk about whatever is going crazy in your mind right now, like even if you're spun out, like I'll be here for you. Like that's God bless those people. I know I don't have it in me, and I can imagine they're few and far between. then do you pay them? Is that another expense? Like I'm getting into like the production aspect of this now,
Right, right, right.
I guess that's highlighting a problem in the scene that there's not a lot of mental health resources in the
Yeah.
scene.
Uh,
It's
I
mostly at like
think
big events, like music festivals and stuff like that. That's the only
I
time where I find it.
think there was a time when harm reduction was starting to become popular, but it being seen and openly available at like bigger and bigger events, that it was like a shunned thing. They had to shut it down real
Hmm.
quick, where it's like,
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
things are happening. If people have clean access to things for harm reduction, knowing that there might possibly be something going down, like you could easily save someone's life, or I've experienced
Yes.
it at
Absolutely.
big festivals where it's like, as soon as they see it, like security or somebody, it's like, you got to shut this down right now. And it's like,
Hmm.
that is what's going to cause more harm to people than good.
Hmm.
I just went through like a whole training thing. I'm taking like a leadership course this year for Leadership Seacoast. And my
Hmm.
last Seacoast day, it was, learning all about the ins and the outs of like public health needs, harm reduction, drug abuse, adverse childhood events, all kinds of stuff. The housing crisis and homelessness, like everything that you could
Hmm.
possibly imagine that was like a crisis. I learned all about this like intimately. And, that day left me jarred because it's like these things hit close to home. um
Hmm.
People who've
Hmm.
been incarcerated, they lose their ability to like deal with everyday life things because they're not in an environment where they're controlled anymore, that the free will, it gets to them. That's
Hmm.
just one,
Hmm.
stark example. But
Right.
in going through those classes and the leadership, I try to make it a point to be super vocal about the needs of other people and mental health. And it's okay to be honest and open, because that's how we reduce harm.
Hmm. Agreed.
Mhm,
Absolutely agreed.
mhm.
Yeah, that's where again where communication comes in too. Like it's just so important,
Yes.
and it's something I didn't do enough of,
Mhm,
and I'm like learning a lot these past like couple years of finally just like opening up and like
mhm,
just yeah, it's okay. Like,
mhm,
and you'll figure it out even if what you open up is like not necessarily optimal in the moment. Like it'll help you figure things out because it's true and it's honest and you're communicating with people.
mhm.
Yeah.
For many people, music and art is their resource to help them heal, how to connect to others.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
the effect is, for me, my art with music has been a journey of mental health
Hmm.
and freedom,
Hmm.
of dealing with
Absolutely.
emotions and being able to share them with people, even if I don't have words for what it is or how it
Hmm.
feels. Sharing the experience through sound is important. Have you
Hmm.
ever experienced anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, most of my musical journey has just been all about that and like gaining confidence and yeah, kind of hating yourself and like loving yourself and like it's kind of a trip and like it's an emotional roller coaster. Um, yeah, especially like someone who wants to like kind of aspires a little bit to be a jazz musician, like and like isn't really like even close to that iceberg yet. Yeah, it's there's a lot of pressure that you can put on yourself, and
It is.
yeah, and I definitely put a lot of pressure on myself, and I've just been like reading a book recently that's kind of it's called Effortless Mastery by Kenny Warner. He's a jazz musician, and yeah, he basically is just like, dude, can you can play, you can just play, like stop thinking about it. You can do whatever you want, like you'll figure it out. Like it's okay. Don't worry. Don't overthink things. Like you're gonna live. Like life is just gonna keep going on. Which is like sure, it's some hippy dippy stuff. I've heard that a million times. But
If it works for you, what's the harm?
yeah, exactly. And after a while, like it did hit me, and I was like, you're right. Like
Mhm.
I'm the man. But then who knows? Maybe in a month I'll be like, I suck. Like, it's
Holding yourself in a place of humbleness, confidence,
yeah,
not arrogance. That's
yes,
important.
yes.
Having
It's
an
also difficult.
unhealthy, unchecked ego is
Hmm.
one of my like super main icks. Like, if you're
Hmm.
overly confident and you think you're entitled to something that you don't have to work for it, then
Hmm.
I'm kind of
Hmm.
just going to be like, whatever, and roll my eyes at you.
Right. Right.
you work for things, you get better, you gain skills. But, at some point when people get a big head, their ego makes it to where it's like they don't have to work for it anymore. So they're not
Mm-hmm.
keeping up with the skills. They're not
Mm,
learning new things. They just kind of stagnate and they like burn out.
right.
You see that a lot with like local scenes too. People push to a certain threshold and then they hit that, and then it's like
Mm,
that's all you got. You got to
right.
constantly up your game to
Right. Yeah.
I'm not saying to impress,
Mm,
but just be fresh. Like
yeah.
bring something new. Instead of
Yeah.
playing the same type of music all the time. Play
Mm,
different genres, mix it up. I don't know.
yeah.
Go out of your
Yeah.
comfort zone. Sing
And that
on
might just
stage,
impress
rap,
people.
just like
Yeah.
you were suggesting earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incorporate an instrument.
Right.
Wow factor.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Uh, let's see here. We got about 15
Hmm.
left. I'm looking for. I kind of blew through these questions super fast. I feel like. Um, what is? Do you have a clear vision for where you think? And we kind of touched on this before. Do you have a clear vision for where you think the future is going to go with music? We talked a little bit about AI. We talked a little bit about, no DJs allowed.
Yeah. The live
We,
performance.
yep.
Yeah.
Um,
Um.
do you have
Yeah.
a
I think
vision
then.
for what that looks like for you in the next, let's say decade?
Yeah. At least for me, I think is a lot more travel as well. And just yeah, getting out and I think that's very important. And unless like you got a horseshoe up your butt, like social media, I don't think is gonna be the key. I think content creation is still important, but
Right.
I don't know. I've kind of
Content creation without being an influencer.
yeah, yeah, I guess so. But then yeah, what does
unless
influencer mean? Like
unless you're using music and art as a motive for social change, then that's different.
right, right.
That's different. That was actually a question I had in here. I was trying to
Yeah,
look
like
for it.
it's weird. Somebody's considered me an influencer once, and I was like, well, I guess that makes sense. Like I'm like but it felt weird to hear that. I was like, ew, like, fucking, what'd you call me? like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, no, I'm using like social media to like influence culture and like I'm using it consistently to do that, especially with like the Space Jam that I run. Like that's like definitely like totally communal. Like I get nothing out of it other than like good for me. I'm helping Worcester out a little bit and like some musicians get loud and be on stage. Yeah, I don't think we talked about. I run an open jam in Worcester. I stock the stage with instruments
You
and
should
let
go.
yeah, and it's every
All
Wednesday
the
from 8 to
listeners.
midnight. I got a guitar, bass, drums, keyboards, percussion stuff, microphones to sing and rap. And yeah, you just get up there and improvise with a bunch of musicians, and it's fun. It's a good way to meet people and just yeah, have a good time with
Such a
music.
beautiful thing that you're
Yeah,
doing.
all improvised.
If it wasn't
And
so far to Worcester from where I live, and I
I
wasn't
know.
working late nights a lot of the time, I would totally go
Mhm.
out.
We'll see what happens. Maybe it'll spread a little bit.
I hope so.
People have been, yeah, people have been saying like, "Oh, I wish it was X, Y, Z." And I was like, "You can do it. You just need to find space and like leave a drum kit and some other shit there, and like see if they're cool with that." Yeah, yeah,
Do you ever struggle with when you're putting on events and promoting them? Do you ever feel like let down at the end of the night? And how do you deal with that feeling to keep you going to the next thing if you do feel that?
yeah. I do feel that, especially like when I'm trying to put on electronic music events. Yeah, um, especially like last year, I did like an after hours like warehouse rave in Worcester and like lasers and like great sound system. Like I worked real hard on this thing. Maybe like 25 people showed up. It's like a big warehouse. Like it was like it looked very empty in there. Everyone had a good time, but it was very disheartening for all that hard work and like sure it was maybe only like a week and a half of marketing, but like come on, like it was very disheartening to see like no one cares about this cool thing that like has never happened here in like 10 years. Like a warehouse rave. Like, come on, like a dude drove from like Boston because he heard of it and was like hyped about it. But like that was that was cool, but like that was it. Like no one else cared enough. I don't know.
I feel
And
that
I'm
way
still a little bitter
too.
about it, clearly. But
You know,
yeah, that happens a lot
if you
to
put on
me.
an
I feel.
event, and even if 25 people show up, there could be a chance that one person there was inspired to
Hmm.
be a little more free and love themselves, or
Yeah,
make a new friend, or um, decide to make some type of art, or decide
absolutely.
to give a
Hmm.
chance to something new. Like there's always a light, even if you don't necessarily see it. You could have
Hmm.
inspired someone to like want to become a performer or want to throw an event like that. Or,
Yeah.
those lasers look really cool tonight. Like maybe I should like check that out and see if I could do that too.
Right.
I
Right.
try to look past just the fun of the event itself and putting it on.
Mm-hmm.
That keeps me motivated.
No, you're absolutely right, and it clearly hasn't stopped me because like I'll keep putting on events and whatnot.
That fire in your
Just to,
heart.
yeah, yeah, just to try to keep it going. Like yeah,
You
because
got
why not? It gives me a little bit of meaning too, and yeah, people do seem to appreciate it at the end of the day, even if it's not as many people as I would like and like envision in my dream of dreams. But yeah, it is still something I'm proud of at the end of the day.
you
All the
should
things
be
I've
proud.
done. Yeah,
You
and
should be proud.
it's taught me so much. It's having me meet so many great people and great friends, and yeah, yeah, I'm super grateful for it. Even though I'm hungry for more, I'm
Aren't we
still
all?
like, yeah, I'm still very grateful, and yeah, and like people look up to me too, so it kind of shows me like, yeah, you are like only. Nah, I don't know where I'm going with this, but like you are what you think you are, sort of thing. Like, or I don't know what I'm trying to say with this.
It's all right. It's been a long 2 hours.
Yeah.
I get discouraged sometimes and I get down, but I think of all the positive things and I look
Mhm.
back on all the cool people that I've met and done events with and work with, like you. And I
Mhm.
think of all the artists who it was our first time performing and we gave them a chance, and we
Mhm.
are now putting their music out and they're just so grateful and so
Right.
warm and so friendly. So we need more of community efforts to drive positive change. And it's not all about
Yeah.
the money, it's not all about the fame, it's not all about the popularity. It's all about community building, making art, and
Yeah.
trying to change the negativity to positivity, because there's so
Mhm.
much negative in the world. We just need a little more light every
I
day.
know. Every day.
Every
Every
day.
day.
Every day.
Yeah. And
Thank
just
you
keep
so
giving
much.
up opportunity.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thanks,
Sunshine, it's
Sam.
been
Thanks for having
great.
me.
You're welcome.
It's
Anytime.
great. Yeah. And it's great conversing all the time. I don't get to do this often, but it's always good to like, yeah, have like a prompt and bounce off ideas and actually like, I don't necessarily think about these things. I'm thinking about these things all the time, but like I don't get the opportunity to articulate them. And once you articulate them, it really makes you think about like, oh shit, what did I just say? Like,
Mhm.
oh man, like I feel bad for like public speakers who like have to say things all the time
The
because they
important
probably
thing,
refine their thoughts all the time, as we all do. So
it took
yeah,
me a good like entire year to put this questionnaire together, front and
I
back,
can
all
imagine. Yeah,
laminated, color coded.
yeah,
I didn't use that as my guide one thing into the next. I try to like loosely spit it rather than be rigid, because I want this to
hmm,
feel as genuine and intimate and not pushed as possible. I think
yeah,
the more raw you are with your response, the closer it is to how you really feel about something. It's not like a practice thing. It's like that's how
hmm.
you feel. That's how you react right away
Yeah,
to that given thing. And that's
right.
important for people to see, is the genuineness behind the conversation that's not coerced in any way. That's how
Hmm.
you be the change. That's how you create a dialogue. Is you got to be
Amen.
open, honest. Let's
That's
go.
right. Yeah,
Mhm,
and communicate. That's right.
mhm, mhm.
Cool. Well, thanks, Sam. This is
You're
great.
very welcome. So happy to have you. Until
And
the
hopefully
next
see you
time.
soon.
Until the
Yes.
next time. Peace out, fam.